Hello everyone. In this second part of Lost Spring, we are going to do in details line by line explanation of the second part of the chapter which deals with the bangle makers of Firozabad. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. In these lines, we see, unlike Saheb, Mukesh did not want to work for anyone. He is determined to become a motor mechanic. He belongs to Firozabad, a small town that is famous for its bangles. Most of the families in Firozabad work around furnaces, welding glass, and making bangles, which is supplied throughout the country. Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures, in dingy cells without air and light, that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh, too, worked at one of such glass furnaces. People in Firozabad do not know that it is illegal for children to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dirty and small places which is devoid of air and light. These 20,000 children can lose their vision working here. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot, and pushes it open. We enter a half-built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. In these lines, we see that Mukesh was delighted to take the writer to his home. He led her through the foul smelling lanes with garbage all around. They walked past homes that were shacks with crumbling wall, shaky doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals living together in a primitive state. His own house was a shack that had an unsteady iron door which he banged with his foot. The writer noticed a firewood stove over which spinach leaves were placed in a vessel. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, were more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of three men, her husband, Mukesh, and the father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. As custom demands, daughter-in-laws must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send two sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. Here we see a frail young woman who was cooking for the whole family. She was the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. This lady, a little older to Mukesh, is the Bahu, and she has already taken charge of three men, her husband, Mukesh, and the father. When the older man entered, she retreated behind the broken wall and pulled her veil closer to her face, as it was a custom to remain veiled in front of elders. The elder man was a poor bangle maker. Earlier, he had worked hard as a tailor, then as a bangle maker, but he even failed to repair a house or send his two sons to school. All he could do was teach them the art of making bangles. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles. In the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow, lie in mounds in unkept yards are piled on four-wheeled handcarts pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. And in dark hutments next to lines of flames of flickering old lamps sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. In these lines, Jung is presenting the condition of the bangle makers. Mukesh's grandmother, who has lost her husband as he had already turned blind, she feels that it is their karam, their destiny. These people who are born in the caste of bangle makers could not think of a livelihood other than making bangles. Looking around the shanty lanes, one could see four-wheeled handcarts laden with bangles pushed by young men, and in dark hutments, boys and girls with their parents. They're busy welding pieces of colored glass into bangles. Their eyes seemed more used to the darkness than the natural light outside. Hence, they often lose their vision even before they become adults. Savita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass. As her hands move mechanically like the tongs of a machine, I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrist. She will then become a bride, like the old women beside her who became one many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist, but no light in her eyes. एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया, she says, in a voice drained of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. Here we see Savita, a young girl, is sitting beside an elderly woman and they're soldering pieces of glass. This sight made the writer Anish Jung wonder if this girl Savita knew that these bangles symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag. It's a good omen in marriage. Perhaps Savita will realize this once she becomes a bride. The old woman sitting beside her has bangles on her wrist but no shine or light in her eyes. Ironically, despite the hard work these bangle makers do, she had not even enjoyed one full meal in her entire lifetime. Her equally aged husband, after all the hard work, has only been able to make a house for the family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the laments of the elders. Little has moved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. Years of mind-numbing toil has killed all initiative and the ability to dream. In these lines, Anish Young, after listening to this man's story, she wonders if this man has achieved what many people have failed to do in their lifetime. He has his own house. It is a common cry in Firozabad. People cry of not having money. Nothing has changed over the years. Years of hardship has killed all hopes and the ability to dream. People in Firozabad cannot think of doing anything else except making bangles. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers. Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal, they say. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. Here we see that the writer suggested some young men in Firozabad to organize themselves into a cooperative to save themselves from being fleeced by the middlemen. These young men expressed their helplessness because if they attempted to get organized, they will be victimized by the police. There was no leader among them who could help them see things in a different manner. It's a spiral, a never ending process which moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. And this vicious circle in which the poor bangle makers of Firozabad have fallen, there is no way to come out of this circle. Listening to them, I see two distant worlds. One of the family caught in a web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. The other, a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together, they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare, and daring is not part of his growing up. When I see a sense, when I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I'm cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. He will go to a garage and learn, but the garage is a long way from his home. I will walk, he insists. Do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. In his small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. The writer realized the gulf between the two worlds existing in Firozabad. One was that of the poverty stricken family where progress was hampered by the disgrace of the caste in which they are born, and the other world of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, bureaucrats, and the politicians who all exploit these poor, poverty stricken bangle makers. Together, they perpetuate this vicious cycle, creating a world where poor people suffer generation after generation. The best thing that Anish Jung feels here is the silver lining in this dark cloud existing in Firozabad. And the silver lining was Mukesh, who wanted to break away from this bangle making and be a motor mechanic. He has no big dreams such as flying a plane, but was happy to dream of cars that he has seen in his town. But flying an aeroplane seemed a far-fetched reality because very few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad.